Hello everybody, welcome back to BareRose Garage. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm back. That's right, it's been a long hiatus, I know, and I was slacking. That's right. Actually, I've had a lot of stuff going on, and I haven't really had a lot of time to get back on the old Ford here. So I thought of this video. What made me think of the video? Well, I went to the gas station and I picked up 10 gallons of gas. Fuel. I'll just leave it at fuel. Okay. The reason I had to go get it, well, winter's coming, so I had to get ready for the snow blower and, everything that's going to require gas, or fuel, I should say, all winter long. Okay, so I got my 2 gallons, and as I reached up there and hit that pump, I noticed a number. Well, it's a number I've always known about, but it's the subject of this video, and it's the hidden charge that everybody's going to have to pay, especially if the EVs do take over. Now, full disclaimer, I am not anti-EV. I actually believe solidly in them. The thing is though, we're just not ready for it yet, and a lot of things have got to be in place. But the one that nobody is talking about, and I have deep delved, especially after I decided to do this video, on information on this, and nobody is talking about this one. So, join me here as we dive in on the hidden costs that nobody's talking about EVs and where these actually help. And they help in ways that nobody knows. So let's dive in here and I'll show you what it is we're talking about today. So to talk about this part of it, I had to take a seat here. So I highly suggest to all of you, especially the EV crowd, join in and sit down, buckle up, and roll down your windows, because this is going to be a bumpy old ride for all of us. Let's dive in and look at the hidden cost and where it's going to come from of the electric vehicle. Here we go. Now, as I was sitting there getting my gas for all of the stuff I'm going to have to be using over the winter, I noticed something that I've always noticed. And I came home and I wrote it all down on this little tablet here. That's right, just your standard old tablet. I know I'm old school because why? The battery never goes dead in this tablet of mine. So let's just dive in and I'll explain to you exactly what I discovered out there. Now, all of these numbers I'm going to tell you are for the state of Idaho. That's the state I live in. All of these numbers you can find and you can do yourself and look up yourself for your state. But for these numbers, I just did it for Idaho. Now, in the state of Idaho, we have a 32-cent tax per gallon, and it doesn't matter if it's diesel or gasoline. We keep it simple. It's just the same tax for both. Now, there is an additional 1 cent per gallon that is kind of like a mandatory donation to the Idaho Petroleum Clean Water Fund. I haven't looked into that organization, but I never trust mandatory donations to a charitable organization such as that. I don't know what that actually is for. It might be a good foundation. It might be wonderful. But I can't tell you yes or no about it because I know nothing about it until I just look these up. In fact, it always says 33 cents. It doesn't say that 1 penny of it is going to somebody else. Where's my penny going? Yeah, I'm getting old enough. I can actually talk that way now. The joys of white beards. I'm finally there. I made it. Anyway, okay. I went and got 10 gallons of gas. So what does that mean? $1 of that went to that organization. Or, yeah, well, you know what I mean. Numbers, they're hard. That's why I wrote them down. 10 cents of it actually went to that organization. But because of that, I had 33 cents per gallon. So that's $3.30 that went over there. Math is easy when you just do it by the 10% like that. Anyway, you know how to do that. You just move the decimals. Pretty easy. Which brings me to the numbers that I did up here. I kept them all very easy, so a lot of them are working on averages. Just kind of take this information for exactly what it's meant for, and it's just a learning thing. If you want to deep dive and find more about these and find the exact rock hard numbers, yeah, go for it. I only spent a couple minutes on the Google machine to figure these all out. So I went even deeper on that then. I wanted to know how many registered vehicles are in my state of Idaho. And I did them all up right there. You can see I transferred them all over, and I will put a link down here in my description of the website that I found that has all this information. And again, if you want to go into your state and figure it all out, more power to you. And even more to you, if you can find the exact rock hard, right down to the exact numbers, to the penny of all of this, it's all fun. Anyway, in the state of Idaho, we have currently 5,900 electrical vehicles, EVs. That's totally electric, the ones that don't use anything but the battery, okay? Yeah, I know, my state's kind of small. That's why you guys in California, yeah, these numbers are going to be huge for you guys because they're actually pretty good for me too. Anyway, plug-in hybrids. Okay, that's kind of a new thing, so I'm expecting that one to be low, and it is 3,500 of them in the state of Idaho. Hybrids. Okay, everybody knows what a hybrid is. A little Prius. Check your penis at the door. I know, the Prius. Actually, I like the Prius. It gets great mileage, and I would own one. I would drive one proudly because it would save me a lot of money so I could drive these big block Fords on the weekend. Now you're seeing why I like EVs. I'm with you guys. Okay. Biodiesel. This one confused me. I didn't know where this number came from. How do you register a biodiesel? I don't know. I think they made this number up. So again, I'm questioning my own numbers and encouraging you to go out and find your own numbers. Do this math yourself. It's shocking. There's 40,300 biodiesels in the state of Idaho. Okay, like I said, I'm not sure how they got that number, but okay, I'm going to roll with it. Flex fuel. Okay, flex fuels, I know what that is. Those are the ones that are made to run on E85. Here's a hidden thing about the flex fuels. It's actually right in their name. They're made to run on anything. So those ones will run on 85 octane, 91 octane, and E85. They're made to put whatever you want to put in them. A lot like the first generation Hemi. Those of you who don't know, that's exactly what it was. You could kind of call the first gen Hemis first flex fuels. Anyway, I'm not even going to dive into that on this one. There's 133,300 of those vehicles registered in the state of Idaho. Not the original Hemis, the flex fuels, the ones that will run on anything. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can see how they got that number. Natural gas, there is 100 of them. Now, full disclaimer, these numbers, it says right in it, they're rounded off to make the numbers nice and flat. And I like that because it makes math easy. 100 vehicles in the state of Idaho registered are running on natural gas. 100 vehicles in the state of Idaho also run on propane. Okay, I'll bet you I can point out where all 100 of those are. All the site buses, there's a nuclear site out on the desert. All of those run on natural gas and propane. So that's probably where the majority of those are. And the natural gas company, Intermountain Gas, all of their vehicles run on natural gas. Why? Because they got the natural gas. So I'm suspecting that's where that is. And you really can't count those because the majority of them are government vehicles. And of course, they don't pay taxes to themselves. So I'm just going to leave those numbers out. And I'm sure a couple of those are in private hands and being used, but not enough numbers to even think about. Again, these are just swag numbers that I did for comparison. Now, the number of gasoline-powered vehicles on the road in the state of Idaho, 1,545,500. That's how many gasoline-powered engines, strictly gas, you know, just the regular, they're not flex fuel, they're just regular gas, just like this big block Ford I'm doing right now. I would qualify into that section. That's how many gas-powered vehicles are in the state. Okay, that seems like quite a few, but yeah, I'll go with that number. Number of diesel-powered, 136,000. Okay, that makes me question a little bit because I see a lot of diesel trucks and a lot of stuff, but I don't see everything in the state of Idaho. Yeah, our state's a little bigger than that. I don't see everybody. Contrary to popular belief, we don't know each other. I don't know everybody in the state. I think that number's a little bit on the low side, but maybe it's because they're including the biodiesel fuel. I don't know. And then there's 33,000 unknowns in the state of Idaho. That's probably cars like mine that, they're old enough to not require you declare what fuel they run on. I don't know. And it's also probably all of the side-by-side little ATVs that people register for the road. Those probably fall into that category. So for the sake of numbers, I just didn't count those in this. So what did I count in all this though? This is where we get into the fun stuff down here that I'll walk you through. Now, I did these numbers off of complete swag. Okay, I didn't deep dive and find the exact 100% right down to the single man. I averaged them just like the chart I found on the eBay machine, well, the Google machine. Okay, so I'm just rounding it down to, I added up all of the gasoline consuming vehicles in here. I didn't count EVs because obviously they don't use any gasoline. I didn't include natural gas. I didn't include any of the diesel, just gasoline for the purposes of this video. And I added these all up and I came out with 1,505,200 registered vehicles in the state of Idaho that are using gas. And they're going to the gas pump every single, well, maybe not every single day, but then, they're all getting gas at the gas pumps. Okay. Now this is where it gets a little sticky. I kind of worked it out in my head that 25%, it was a loose number, but I figured 25% of those cars are used in such low volume. Well, like my neighbor's 76 Ford over there. It's registered for the road, but he uses that truck maybe once a month to go 4 miles up the road to the dump and dump off all of his yard waste. That's pretty much all that truck does. Or he'll fire it up and go fishing, and his fishing hole is about 300 yards from the house. My point is, that truck gets driven very little, and it's a good truck. But I'm figuring people like that, they have a registered vehicle they don't really use. I'm just going to rough it out at 25% of them never see the road or in such low volume that the numbers really don't matter. So that I took 25% off of that and it came out to 1,128,900 actively driven vehicles. Another number I just reached deep down into my bowels and pulled right out of my butt. I figure everybody using those vehicles averages about 20 miles per gallon. I know, I made the number up because it's such a variable number. You can't knock it right down to the actual 100%, or at least I couldn't find the information to give it to you totally, so I just figured everybody averages 20 miles per gallon. Every car out there. I know some of them are getting upwards of 50 and some of them are even over. Some people are only getting 4 miles per gallon. I just averaged it out for the sake of an easy number system to 20 miles per gallon average across my state. Okay, then I figure, well, again, another one of those numbers I pulled right out of my butt and threw on this piece of paper. Let's just say everybody has an average commute of 20 miles per day. That's kind of pretty much a good example I can use for my state where people have to drive a little bit. That's, 10 miles to work, 10 miles home. Let's just average it at that for the sake of numbers and easy math. So what does that come down to? That is 1 gallon of gas per day. You can see why I just did nice easy numbers, and it pretty much works out because everybody pretty much fills up their gas tank on average once a week. And them numbers kind of squeeze it in there a little bit around there. Again, these are averaged numbers. Okay, using 1 gallon of gas per day, I dove in some more on those tax numbers. Now, what does that tax do? Let's just stop there for a minute, and let's talk about what the road tax is actually for. Well, for number one, you're paying for your right to use that public road. What is that money used for? That money is used for maintaining and building more roads. So, it's a beautiful system. I love the road tax system. Why? Because it depends on how much everybody is using. Those people that are using more gas are paying more money to pay for more roads. So, that's how the state kind of works through all of that stuff. Now, one thing I did leave out in this, the federal government's cut. The federal government is 18 cents, and that's across the United States. So you have an 18 cents per gallon charge that goes to the federal government. So you got to add that, like I said, in my state it's 33 cents. You add 33 cents to 18 cents, that's how much you're paying in actual taxes. So the federal government is getting 18 cents per gallon, and we're using 1 gallon per day. You can see why I use these nice, easy, round numbers. And it's, like I said, it's going to vary, but yeah, for the sake of this, it's just how it goes. So, grand total in that, and I broke it up into state and federal. The state of Idaho, at 1 gallon per day average for every registered vehicle in my state. This is just what people in the state are buying. And we're not counting the tourists that come through, the truck drivers that come through, you know, everything like that. Just the people in our state are getting, you can see why it's really hard to get the actual number, 1 gallon per day. That equals out, this is where you need to put your seatbelt on and roll the windows down, because this gets big. $372,537 per day. That's what they get per day in order to maintain our streets and build more roads. And some of that goes to paying for things that we need, things that we desperately need, things like fire services. Yeah, your local fire department, they get a little bit of that money there to pay for all that. Police department, law enforcement. Yeah, we need cops. We need law enforcement. That all comes out of that fund. Schools, that all comes out of that fund as well. How do you get your kids to and from school with the busing systems, all of that stuff? That's all part of that road tax that also, like I said, builds and maintains our roads. And how do you determine how much taxes you're going to pay? You let go of the pump nozzle. If you can only afford so much that week, well, you only pay for that amount. You see what I'm getting at? Everything is calculated off of the gas pump on how much taxes you're actually paying per day on using public roads. What does that all come down to? This is just the state of Idaho. $135,976,005 per year that the state of Idaho is getting off of their gas tax. Now, in that as well, the federal government is getting from the state of Idaho, just on Idaho residents, registered Idaho, you know, if you got an Idaho license plate, they are getting $203,202 per day, just off my state. Then the federal government is getting $74,168,730 per year. Now, what is the federal government gas tax for? Well, that's for the interstate highway system. That's what they use to maintain and build more interstates and keep them safe. That's a good system to have, and like I said, it all trickles down into other things like state cops and all of that stuff. It goes into law enforcement, and I'm sure there is a little funky, weird business that goes on with that tax dollar, but I'm not going to get into it on this video. That's what that is for and is supposed to be, out there for. All of those road signs and stuff cost money. How do you pay for that? You put in a little gas in your car and you're helping pay for that. That's where all that money comes from. Now, that totals, I totaled it up, state and federal, that is $575,739 per day. Like I said, these numbers are getting so big that they're even hard to say on camera when I'm trying to think about the video and everything. Or $210,144,735 per year. Now that's an important number, and I'll get to that. EVs. What is the draw of the EV? Well, you don't have to put gas in it, right? You just plug it in, you charge it up, you get to drive wherever you want to drive within that range, and then you bring it home. And you charge it at home, you plug it in, and off you go again. Guess what? You're not paying that road tax. You're not paying the right to be driving on the road. And as a matter of fact, you're not contributing to keep those roads maintained. You're not contributing to the law enforcement, the schools, all of that stuff. You don't have to do it because you're not paying the taxes to actually drive on the road that your vehicle is being used for. Now, the scary part about that. Let's say all of a sudden they figure these EVs out and they become the most fantastic thing in the world. Let's just say that they've got automatic chargers built right into those roads that they're not paying for. That's right. As you drive along, there's a charger built underneath the road that as you're driving, it automatically charges your car, so it keeps it going. Don't laugh, this stuff is actually in development. They've got it down to where it's a pullover in your driveway. They have driveway kits that they make, and you can install it in your garage. It only works on certain EVs, certain batteries, just like your cell phones. Some cell phones have wireless charging. Some of them don't work on wireless. Well, same thing. Some EVs work on it, some of them don't. But it is in the making. So let's just say that EVs take over and you're able to drive unlimited range anywhere you want to go all the time in your EV, and you don't have to pay that gas price, right? Well, I got news for you. When you're looking at those kind of numbers, they're going to look to get that money from other places. All kinds of other places. I can give you many examples from the past when we've eliminated taxes that just kind of slipped into other places. Number one, the cigarette and tobacco tax. What happened when we got rid of, when we convinced everybody to quit smoking? Yeah, prices went up in other places, didn't they? Exactly, the same thing is going to happen. The biggest one that I fear, and it's the reason I love the gas tax, is they will start charging it on your meter. They'll transpose this gas tax to your meter for your electric bill. Now your refrigerator, your television, and your 90-year-old grandma who hasn't driven since 1954 is going to be paying that road tax. Why? My refrigerator doesn't run down that road. I know all of the prank calls. Hey, is your refrigerator running? Damn right, it better be. I'm paying for it. You see my point. Electric bill and utility prices are going to skyrocket. Or, now this is where my brain starts to working, and it's a video that I don't usually do on my channel because of this. And it's the reason I waited until this timestamp mark before I'm going to talk about it. They're going to drop it down on property taxes. So everybody who owns property federally, that $210,144,735 per year it's going to come out of property taxes. My house doesn't use the road. Why does my house have to pay for the road tax? You see what I'm getting at? My state is going to have to come up with some money to maintain these roads that the EVs are all using. I'm saying if we all go EV, which, like I said, if they got it up and going, I would almost be on board with it totally until they do this stuff. My state needs $372,537 a day that they used to get by people going at the gas pump, using just as much as they could afford. Now it's going to be mandatory. Now I know what you're all going to say. Well, I can get around that. I don't own a house. I pay rent. I got news for you, pal. You're paying not only taxes, but you're also paying your landlord's payments and his salary. You're paying 3 times. If you own your own house, you're only paying the property taxes. In rent, that's what you're doing. You're paying your landlord's property taxes. That's why rent goes up. If EVs take over and that road tax transposes to property taxes, you're going to see your rent go way up, because that money's got to come from somewhere, and that's exactly where it's going to come from. Now, I'm not a very smart guy, but I work around on these old rusty, crusty junk, and you see right there in the background there, I got a big block Ford sitting over there, and mechanical stuff. So I know one part has got to be in balance with the next part in order to keep that whole engine running. Well, I see the writing on the wall, and I see a whole bunch of IRS agents being hired all of a sudden. Now, I just went to the gas pump and got $10 in gas because I know this day is coming that we're all going to be paying an extreme amount of money because everybody thinks they're cheating the system by driving an EV. But that EV is going to drive prices up like you have never seen before. And I just hope I don't see the day. I hope I see the day where the EV crowd and the internal combustion engine crowd can come together, and we will all work through this together, so none of us are going to get stuck pulling those numbers out of our butt when it comes time to pay those extra IRS agents that are going to come around knocking on our doors looking for the money that they used to be getting when it was so simple as going at the gas station. Until then, I highly recommend everybody get out there and get the metal hot. And we'll all be out there together getting these old classics back on the road where they belong. Dreaming of the days when we can drive an EV down the freeway that'll self-charge as we're doing it. And we'll be able to go for miles and miles and miles of the open road, not even one carbon footprint. And wouldn't that be wonderful? Especially if we don't charge Grandma sitting in the rest home who has never driven a day in her life and stealing her pension so we can drive our EVs. Get out there and get the metal hot. We'll catch you on the next one.